Welcome to Grew with Portia, the podcast that uncovers the hidden treasures within grief. I'm your host, Portia the producer, and I'm inviting you to join me on a transformative journey where we will exchange laughter, of course the best medicine of them all. Reflect on cherished memories. Remember that time that the little boy grabbed my hand instead of his mother's at the amusement park? Yikes. And of course, discover gratitude while navigating one of life's hardest challenges, loss. So get ready to grow with me, Portia the producer. Let's dive in. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Grew with Portia. I am your host, Portia Booker, and as always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to keep up with all things Grew with Portia. One of the things that I think a lot of us don't realize is that some of us inherit stability and others of us inherit survival. But those of us who inherit survival have the opportunity to change that around through what's called ideas, drive, and discipline. So today, everybody, I have a guest who is no stranger to that. Today, I'm going to be joined by Mr. Kevin KAYR Robinson, who is an entrepreneur, real estate investor, also the author of the newly released book, Can't Break Me. And he also has an amazing multi-million-dollar portfolio that he built from the ground up. So welcome, KAYR to Grew with Portia. How are you today?
I'm doing excellent. I am so excited to be on your platform. I'm a big fan, and I look forward to having this conversation.
KAYR, let me tell you, when I first saw your book, the minute I thought about it, I said, I wonder if he's a big fan of David Goggins, because that's what it made me think of, because his book is called You Can't Hurt Me. And I said, wow, very similar. You guys kind of look alike, too. So I'm like, I wonder if they're like
people say that, too, which is so funny. So people say, oh, you look like David Goggins. I said, no, we are not the same people. And I'm in good shape and everything. But as you read the book, I come from it from a very different angle from David Goggins.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But I just thought it was funny that both of y'all look very similar. Like, I wonder if people ask him if he gets stopped on the street.
I always get stopped on the streets, in the airport. It's so funny.
Well, hopefully one day y'all can cross paths and take a picture and then you can fool everybody. Back when I was in college, me and a college friend did that because both of us, our names began with P. So people would mix us up. But I'm like, we're two different people. Our voices sound the same. It didn't help that we were both in broadcasting. But both of us, our voices are different. She's a little taller than me. Mm-hmm. I'm a little lighter than she is. Our hair is different.
That's hilarious.
So just to fool everybody, we came to class one day wearing the same dress. It screwed everybody up. They'd be like, oh, hi. And I'm like, no, I'm Portia.
Y'all play too much.
I mean, but you know what? Sometimes you got to play the part, make it work and then go from there. KAYR, one of the things that I pulled from your book is a couple themes: instability, survival, trauma, grief. And for those of us who have grown up in the world, oftentimes in the hood, we're no stranger to that, right? Mm-hmm. But the thing that sometimes happens is those themes become our identity. Yes. And I'm curious, KAYR, what did it take for you to learn to separate yourself from that survival, that trauma, that grief and instability identity to where you are today?
And I'm glad you opened there. And so I think if I could provide you with a little bit of context. So I grew up in West Philadelphia in deep poverty in a family of 7 raised on welfare, where we move constantly. Sometimes we live without electricity or heat. And I remember not having a margin of safety and having this idea of instability. But distinctively, I remember we lived in a studio apartment and we had a hot plate, no stove, a bathroom sheet, no bathroom door. We had a bathtub, no shower, and we had 15 people competing for space with rats, roaches, and flies. And it was so crowded in that one bid because my stepdad, he pointed out that look at your siblings. A bunch of my siblings got pregnant at 14, 15, 16. So we were all on top of each other living. And he said, do not be an F up like me and your family. And that was the first time someone told me like something like that. I was in eighth grade. And at that time, I had three D's and three B's and one C because I'm cute, and I had from fourth grade to eighth grade, I was smoking weed, I was drinking alcohol, and skipping school. I really didn't love myself. I was really upset. But when he told me, "Do as I say, not as I do," at that point, I said, "I'm going to take the perfect from the imperfect person." And that was the moment when I started to come to the realization that nobody was coming to save me. There was no blueprint, there was no way out. So if I wanted to change, it was going to be because I changed. And so I embraced what I believe, and I mentioned in the book, the three D's: desire, discipline, determination. So I desire to have a better life, to want more, to try to break out of this vicious cycle. And so what happened is that I realized that desire alone doesn't get results. And so I realized that I had to learn how to be disciplined. My stepdad and mom, a bunch of them, they were good people, but they weren't disciplined. And so when I did this, I said, let me figure out how to become disciplined, implement routines and processes so I can change my life. But I also understood that I needed determination because there will be moments where I will have setbacks, when nobody's clapping, when I will be alone, when it's much easier to quit, but I have to keep pushing forward. And then what happened is that once I embraced this new mindset and accept the reality that I had to do this on my own and put together my own personal board of directors, people who can pour into me and show me the different ways to navigate high school. I graduated valedictorian of my high school, school president, class president, debate captain, track captain, and also played football and got a presidential scholarship. So it all started at that pivotal moment where I was either going to go wayward or I was going to go up. And so I decided I'm going to break out of this vicious cycle. So it all started with that conversation and then me coming to a series of small realizations that I can change my life. So I changed my friends, changed my environment, and changed the way I look at the world.
KR, I've heard that statement before of do as I say, not as I do, and don't be an F up. I've heard that many times in various variations. And for some people, don't be an F up would set them back,
Yes.
right? And also for you, making that change, right? Being disciplined, saying, you know what, I don't want to live this same life like my siblings who are having kids at 14 and, they're piled up on top of each other, literally like sardines or in a football game.
Yes. Yes.
And I want
Yes.
it better. And I think about too, KR, you were at an age that you were very on that border of I'm done, right?
Yes.
Because what it's when you're like between 8 years old and 12 is where you've got your mind made up.
Yep.
And I'm glad that you were able to be impressed upon, where you were able to say, you know what, I'm going to take this to heart and start really diving into myself, learning to love myself, putting down the smoking habits, the drinking, to
Yep.
not have the same outcome as my
Yep.
parents.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting because I have my autograph book from eighth grade, and one of my friends wrote in there, "I can't believe you made it." Literally,
Wow.
because several of my siblings didn't even start high school, they just dropped out. And so they saw me going in a certain path, and they were like, "You're probably going to end up just like that." Because we were at the bottom of the bottom. So I remember living on 50th and Wall. We lived on 51st and Spruce, and then we moved a couple blocks left, and we lived on 50th and Wall, on the uneven number side and on the even number side. We will move across the street with trash bags and a shopping cart, and then we moved to 56 and Wall. So it's no way you can hide. Everybody can see that you're broke as hell. And so I realized that I cannot control the environment I live in, but I can control how I respond to things. And so that was my mentality at that young age.
And you're right. It's obvious, right? There's embarrassment, there's shame amongst
Yes.
you, your parents. And I
Yes.
mean, everybody's collectively holding on to that survival
Yes.
mentality. And I'm
Yes.
curious, KR, what did being in that survival mode do for you emotionally, especially as a Black man, considering that in our society, as a man of color, you're not allowed to show emotion. You have to be what I like to call the Tin Man from the Wizard of Oz.
hmm hmm So what was happening, the reason why I embraced all these negative habits in terms of, hey, I want to be the class clown. I want to have fun. I don't care about getting A's. I don't even care about getting going to school. That's not my thing. I wanted to put on this facade that, look, I'm the man. I'm the alpha man. I'm running through the streets. I'm not weak. Y'all need to stop being suckers. Ain't nobody got time for that. I had a whole lot of fun. But those days I had to get come to terms with it's okay being vulnerable. And so being vulnerable was actually my secret weapon, my competitive advantage. I remember I got a mentor and we went to a Chinese restaurant and I had placed an order. I said, "Can I get a rent fried rice?" And my mentor, Mr. Mason, said, "What?" I said, "Rent fried rice." He said, "Do you mean a shrimp fried rice?" And at that point, I realized that I needed help enunciating words. So I went and found a high school teacher, English teacher, to spend 1 hour a week with me, teach me how to enunciate words. And then when I got to Bowdoin College, I got a theater professor to spend a week with me outside of class to teach me how to enunciate words because I wanted more for myself. And so I started understanding that a closed mouth doesn't get fed and that it's okay to say, look, I am not doing this alone. I need help. And I always stress, I'm not self-made, I'm community made. So all these people help me become who I am today. And so I had to retrain my way of thinking, change the way I was thinking, saying, you know what, I probably should ask people for help. If I'm cold and I don't have a winter coat or I'm starving, I need to ask a person, one of my friends, you going to eat that lunch? You don't want that free lunch? I need 2 lunches today. I'm starving, like Marvin. And so I think I had to start really embracing this idea that, look, if I'm going to break out of this vicious cycle, if I'm going to move forward, I have to be willing to open up. But the thing about when you're in that survival mentality and mood, what happens is that you really start to learn how to read people and read environments. So there's some benefits of being in the survival, but when you're in this hurry state or this alert state, you're working really hard in terms of mentally, physically, you feel drained because you never feel as though you can let yourself relax. And so I wanted to work very hard and I learned how to go from survival to structure to stability, not just financially, but emotionally. And so I took steps to say, all right, I need systems and processes so that I can fall back on, so I know who to talk to when I'm going through certain things, whether it's grief, whether that's a minister or professional therapy. And I also need to make sure I learn the fundamentals of, okay, this is asset management, this is budgeting, so I can have a better life, so I'm not overwhelmed with life.
Oh, 100% care. And I think what I love too is again, you're taking ownership, right? You're being accountable for how your actions cause these ripple effects, right? Where in our society today, I hate to say it, I see a lot of victim mentality where people say that they want to do better, but then it's they did this, they did that, they did this. And I also love how you mentioned that you're not self made, you're community made, right? Because we're each a collective
Yes,
of the stories and experiences that we have from different people who have crossed our paths, right? We,
yes,
before we started this conversation, we talked about both of our parents making their transitions, right? And the imprints and lessons that we take from them, whether it's our looks, different
yes.
mannerisms, different values. And
Mhm.
here, another thing I think about, because obviously from the outside, everybody sees you probably as a very successful Black man. And let's
Yes.
be realistic in our society that Black masculinity tends to come with a lot of toxic things. So I'm curious because you brought up that you've created this system where a lot of people don't have systems in place. They probably don't even really know what a healthy system looks like.
Yes.
Can you define from your perspective what healthy Black masculinity looks like in 2026 and compared to 10 years ago when we think about the whole situation with Kanye West when his mother passed away and everybody was making fun of him because of that?
So I think that we basically have to redefine masculinity for all races, especially blacks, black men. Is that in the past you would say, look, just bottle it all up. You don't have to tell anyone right now that you're going through, you're having a bad day. So what happened is that it's a lot, you should demonstrate strength by being willing to tell people, look, today is an off day. I need some time. I have to take some time to process this so that I don't go to the point where I'm so bitter towards the world that I take that out on my loved ones and my friends and my community or my employer. And so I think masculinity in these days is that we have to refine it and re-understand that, look, you go to work for a paycheck, you go to school for an education, and you go to your loved ones and family for love and joy and happiness. And don't mix them up. Because if you think that you can get everything from just one person or one source, that's what really hurts, especially a man, because he puts everything in just this one thing. So you may say, all I am is a professional football player. And if that doesn't work out, then you're upset with yourself. You're depressed because you don't have outlets. So I think masculinity means that we have to, this new way of thinking about, we have to be willing to embrace the idea of community to help us figure out how to be successful, how to pay the bills, how to get over grief, how to figure out our own identity, how to figure out how to achieve our goals. Instead of trying to do everything in a silo, individualistic way, you have to be willing to change the way we think about things. You don't have to do everything on your own. You don't have to carry the burden of everybody on your back.
I love the analogy, KR, of the outlets. That is just perfect because when you think about an outlet in your house, most houses, when you look at one outlet, it has two ports,
Yes,
right?
yes,
You're not going to be able to overload that port by putting in what, an extension cord, and then you're plugging in the
yes,
fridge, you're plugging in the dryer. You're
yes,
going to overload and short
yes,
circuit.
yes. Excellent analogy. Yes,
No, I love that because I think so many of us don't realize that we're overloading in one space, right? As you mentioned,
yes,
if you're a head coach, right, and you're in a relationship and you're trying to use your relationship as your therapist, your
yes,
doctor, all of that,
yes.
that's too much one
Too
person
much for
can
one person.
bear,
Yes. Yeah.
right?
You're going to break the person or you're going to break that relationship. So you got to make
Okay.
sure that, hey, look, and you hear a lot of people say this person is my everything, my pastor, my best friend, my mom, my dad. No, that's too much. It's okay, probably one or two, my best friend and my wife or my husband, but then you may want to get professional counseling. You may want to get a therapist. You may want to get a pastor. You may want to have your own friends in addition to your partner having friends. You may want to talk to your cousins or family members. You have to have these various outlets, or you are going to, if something goes wrong with that one person or that one job, you may think it's all over.
Yeah. And I just love that analogy, 100% KR. KR, before we continue the rest of the conversation, I'm sure that there's going to be individuals who want to connect with you, who obviously want to get a copy of your book. And if there's any upcoming events and things that you have, please share with our audience how they can connect with you.
So you can reach me on social media, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, or what have you, at KAYR Motivates. That's KAYR Motivates. You also can check out my website at KAYRmotivates.com. That's KAYRmotivates.com. And my website has links to my upcoming events. I have a leadership and entrepreneurship event coming up on May 26th in Philadelphia. So you may want to check that out, and a bunch of events coming up, like in Philadelphia on June 28th. I'm doing an event. June 27th, I'm doing an event at the October Gallery at 2 p.m. So make sure you go to kayrmotivates.com to figure out my upcoming schedule.
Excellent. So as KR mentioned, KR motivates, KAYR motivates.com. You can also, use AI as your friend if you forget. We'll also put this information in the show notes as well. KR, as I mentioned, from the outside, and especially now, you've gone from this place of survival to stability to sustainability, right? And for our audience who's tuning in, what's one step they can take today to start breaking maybe some of those generational curses and also start building wealth for themselves? Because I think we're in a new time now. We're building wealth, is way easier because there's information out there everywhere. But I think there's also the hard component of having that discipline because everybody's all on social media and,
Yes.
you get caught up in the cycles of what is doom scrolling or whatever. So, how can people take that first step today, KR, to break generational curses, be more vulnerable, and also start to really build wealth for themselves and identify what that looks like for them, right? Not what for everybody else, what wealth looks like.
Hmm. And so I'm glad you mentioned that because it's important that you run your own race at your own pace. So
Mm.
when I started out in real estate, I had one rental unit in 2009. By 2018, I got to nine rental units. 2019, I got to 35 rental units. In 2020, I got to 105. So I bought 70 rental units during the pandemic. I'm at 160 plus. And what is interesting is you see in 2009, I had one, 2018, nine. So it took me 9 years to get to nine houses, rentals. But what was fascinating is that some people said, KR, you're supposed to be smart. Why are you going so slow? Why didn't you do this in the LLC? Why are you doing your personal name? And that's why I said run your own race at your own pace, because you got to have enough faith that what you're doing is going to pay off. And then when I start getting really big and growing fast, they said, oh my goodness, you must be a genius. But before you were questioning me. So what I would tell people is first you have to believe in yourself and come up with your own strategy. And so I say, one, take an inventory of who's in your corner. What skills do you have? What are you lacking? What assets do you need? Then what I want you to do is be willing to be vulnerable, because then you're going to start to put together your team, your personal board of directors. People can help you and fill in these gaps. If you don't have a mother figure or a father figure at home that's helping you in terms of execution at school, but they fill you with love, then go get those pieces. So one, I had mentioned, you're going to definitely have to be vulnerable. Two, check your inventory. Three, you're going to have to adopt what I call the three D's: desire, discipline, determination. Master those three. And then the next level is the three C's: intellectual capital. You want to learn in the classroom or outside the classroom, but you have to learn some way, somehow. Then social capital. Build relationships and leverage those relationships so you can affect change in your life and other people's lives, because those relationships can open doors more than money. And the final thing is financial capital. Understand how to get access capital, how to grow capital, how to preserve capital. Because a lot of us, some of us don't know how to budget. Some of us don't know how to fill out a checkbook. Some of us don't know how to get a loan. Some of us don't know how to invest in the stock market or any other type of investments. So I want you to focus on the three D's: discipline, desire, determination; the three C's: intellectual capital, social capital, and financial capital. But most importantly, if you do what's necessary, then you do what's possible. You'll find yourself doing the impossible. So don't try to become rich overnight. This is my 17th year of being a real estate investor. Take your time. Things done well are done soon enough. So what you want to do if you're starting out is you say, all right, I'm going to cast my bucket where I am. I'm going to figure out all the programs that I can take advantage of to buy a property in my own personal name, because there are a lot of grants, there are a lot of programs. And then once I get more established, then I'll start buying stuff in the LLC, because the interest rates are much lower. The terms are much better. The cost is much better when you're buying your personal name. And all you got to do is you'll get additional insurance. Just like how when I look out the window and it's about to rain, I grab my raincoat, but I also get an umbrella. So you'll get regular insurance on your rental property, but you also get an umbrella policy to help you. So that's ways that you will start to build wealth. And I tell people, you do not have to become extremely successful overnight. You have to figure out, all right, what numbers do I need? If I can get an additional $500, $1,000 a month, that could put me in a position to win. So that's what I tell people. When you really want to change your life, you have to embrace the three D's, embrace the three C's. And if you do what's necessary, then do what's possible. You find yourself doing the impossible. So get a steady job, show up on time, save a little bit of money, read a book about financing, get a mentor if necessary, or figure out how you learn, and just keep building. It's like building blocks. And then once you have momentum, then you're off to the races.
Wow. I mean, you're KR, it makes me think about how when we're starting to learn math, right? Whether you're learning algebra or multiplication, division, math is the same way. You learn it
Yes.
by building on top of it, right? One of my clients asked me, when do I use algebra? And I told her every single day. I use
Mhm.
Y equals MX plus B every day to solve problems. And I
Yes,
broke it
yes.
down to her. And she's like, I wish they would have explained it to me in that way in school because it would have made more sense. And
Hmm.
it's kind of the
Hmm.
same thing, building that foundation. As
Yes,
you reassured, taking your time, right? I think in the age of social media, everything seems instant, but it
yes,
only seems instant once everything snowballs, right? Once you're getting that momentum from
yes,
putting in
yes,
all the work. And then
yes,
also getting that community support, that board of directors for yourself, that
yes,
mentor who's going to
yes,
be there for you to help guide you because they've done it,
yes.
right? And not being afraid to ask for help.
Exactly. And it's very similar to I came up with the idea of board of directors when I was in eighth grade because I was reading about companies and CEOs have a board of directors that they meet with on every quarter or what have you, give them advice and make sure they're going on the right path. And then I realized that mentors, someone will talk to you and make you feel good, and but then your sponsors are willing to put their name on the line and give you money or what have you to help you go forward. And then I also looked at like some people who have addictions or they're addicts or what have you, and they join these AA meetings, and sometimes they have a sponsor and they have a community. So that's why I always stress it's good to have a board of directors, a sense of this idea of community, because we all need help. I'm not saying that you're an addict, but I'm saying is I like to use these frameworks because you increase the odds or the chances of you becoming successful by taking these concrete steps. Because a lot of people talk to you about all this big stuff. No, I want you, if you're going to be a nurse, go read every book and everything online about nursing. Go to the free library. Also, go to the community center, go to the church, or go to the mosque, or whatever your religion is, and say, are there any nurses in here? I want to talk to them. What steps did they take? Start to model your life after them. Become obsessed with what you're interested in because the riches are in the niches. You don't have to be me or our wonderful host. We want you to be the best version of yourself.
Absolutely. I mean, couldn't have said it better. You know, each of us was put here uniquely for a reason. There's no two of us. And so it's important to run your own race and find what really lights you up to be of service. And always remember that it takes a community, it takes a village, right? That's the old saying from when I was little. It takes a village, and that
Yes.
still stands true today. Well, everybody, that was Kevin KR Robinson that you heard from today on Grew with Portia. And that concludes our conversation for today. And until next time, everybody, peace and hair grease, everyone.